welcome back to Innovate Africa, and it's all about impact, as you know, impacting lives on the African continent. But have you ever asked yourself, what does advertising have to do with impact? Well, it does, and I'll share a story of Adbot. Michelle Geere is the CEO and co-founder of Adbot. I'll be telling you their story. As a matter of fact, she'll be doing that. But the one thing I can tell you, I've just returned from a wonderful trip to Dublin where Adbot actually made the top 7 of the Irish South African Tech Challenge. So what do? And Michelle Geere, what a pleasure having you here. So first and foremost, tell us, what business are you in as Adbot?
So I'm in the business of making sure that other businesses can focus strategically on growing their business, while I take care of all their marketing needs and campaign management.
Okay, time to dig under the hood a little bit. So what is it that actually happens behind the scenes that allows you to achieve this?
Essentially what we do is we replace the campaign manager or the person who does the campaign management. A lot of the times small business owners have to do their own campaign management, right? So what that means is after your long day at work, trying to figure out problems, managing people, doing logistics, you get home and you have to still do your Google ads and Facebook ad optimization. So essentially we take care of that using AI and machine learning so that you can focus on the things that are actually really important. So AI essentially in its basic format is just repetitive tasks or automated tasks. So optimization is just automated tasks, and the machines that we've learned to date, it does it way better than what we do it. Humans do it, and therefore what it helps us do or achieve is it gets you the highest amount of clicks to your platform, whatever that might be, social or a website, for the lowest amount of cost.
You know, the one thing I think we're all interested in is the journey. So take us through the journey, starting with the problem identification, realizing, hey man, we have to do this, to where we are today, chatting about this particular product that you eventually launched.
So my career has been digital advertising and mainly within the advertising industry. So even before Facebook was a thing, that's kind of like where my career comes from. And it's only after I started my own business, opening a digital agency, that I discovered that the landscape for small and medium-sized businesses is a lot different for the bigger ones who can actually pay and afford an agency to do it. And it's in that space that we realized this is a massive need, not just for Africa, but it's definitely a world, what do you call it, a human truth, a problem that is needed to be solved. And over that time, I kind of like met up with my co-founder, and we kind of like started looking at this problem together and how we can solve it. Now, initially, we were looking, and we really thought that it would fit in really well with big corporations who were trying to pivot and create a greater value. Like, for example, Telkom Yellow Pages at the time was looking for a solution on how to become digital, and this would have been the product that we had would be like a really good solution for that. Unfortunately, they didn't realize the potential of it because ChatGPT didn't exist, so nobody could understand the context of it. From there, we just decided or figured out that we probably should actually advertise directly to businesses and business owners so that we can see like how it works and actually create like proof of concept more so than anything else. And then we started doing that. More and more businesses started signing up, started seeing the value that the product has created. And what's really interesting is like it's come full circle where corporations, for example, the telcos, are seeing the value and kind of coming back and using the product so that they can service their customer because it adds so much value to the customer's life.
Yeah, I totally get the needing to work on your business instead of in it. Someone's got to drive the strategic development of the business. Someone's got to open up the doors, make the connections, right? But what do you say to a person who doesn't want to part with money and wants to bootstrap because that's what they believe is going to get them further. They need all the capital that they can have in hand. What do you say to them?
So I think when you start your own business, you very much undervalue your own time and how much your time actually is really valued. And my advice to somebody like that is to always be aware of the fact that your time should be spent 100% on strategy. If you are spending a lot of your time in execution, you are not really kind of like working on the business, you're working in the business. And when you work in the business, it's really hard to grow your business because you're just delivering. And so keep that in mind. And I think tools like, for example, Adbot helps you work on your business because it executes for you. So the bot works in your business while you work on your business, and you can be more strategic. It gives you more headspace. It gives you more, flexibility from a time perspective in order to get it. Also, the reality is you might think that you're good at online advertising, but the reality is you're good at the thing that you created. That's why you created the business. You're not good at advertising. You haven't studied it. You haven't done it for years. And so the bot will always be better than you. My advice to somebody like that is spend your time on strategy. That's what humans are really good at. Get bots and other repetitive task apps to do the rest, is my advice.
Now, you're well aware that the show is about impact. Earlier in my introduction, I alluded to this particular question. How does Adbot, through its service offering, actually impact lives on the African continent?
Firstly, I absolutely love Africa. I've got such a heart connection to Africa, and specifically small and medium-sized businesses in Africa, because they grow the economy, but on a very real and practical level. They feed families and they get people, they buy education for the next generation, and they are the guys that actually kind of like keep all the wheels turning. So I have a great passion for small businesses in Africa. And how Adbot is doing that is we really look at how can we make our products available within the continent, regardless of where the need is. One example of that is our partnership with MTN Nigeria, where we have connected our system into their USSD system and allowed them to buy Google Ads using airtime to pay for it. Now that's magical for a couple of reasons. Number one, Google accepts credit cards for payments. So if you are in Nigeria, only 1% of the population has credit cards, which means it's almost like there's no way that you really can afford it. But then also when you do afford it, you have to pay a lot in order to get it to kind of like moving forward and get clicks to your site. So through the integration and through the product that we've developed there and through the payment method, we've actually allowed and given access to so like 20,000 SMEs who weren't able to advertise before due to the lack of payment methods, due to the lack of understanding or skill sets, and just giving them access to a new market that they haven't been exposed to before just is phenomenal, because it brings in new sales and it brings exposure and it grows their businesses and it feeds more mouths and it gets more people to university.
A lot of people will look at you on the outside going, oh, how successful I'm going to be like that. But they don't really realize that a lot of us go through these highs, but we hit these really low troughs. So number one, how do you stay sane? And how do you stay focused to get yourself out of the slump?
That is a very relevant question. And the reason being, and we spoke about it a little bit earlier, is that it's so typical of startups. Like 1 minute you're signing the deal of your life and the next minute you're about to close down. And I think the range of emotions that you go through and the plans that you have to put together in order to solve for the highest high and the lowest low gives you kind of a bit of a resilience that I don't think you would find in very many other careers. I think the only way to really kind of like stay sane through the highs and the lows is to have a community and a network of people who are going through the same thing. So just yesterday, I connected with a group of people who we have the same investor, and it was just so great. Like you don't even have to complete your sentence, and they understand. And it just knowing that you're part of like 5 other people who are going through the same thing is really, really helpful. But also they give advice, right? So and I think you sharing, them giving advice, feeling that you're part of something that's growing, really helps you get through like the really tough times, but also the really exciting times. I mean, like if you're an entrepreneur, you're spending a lot of time working, right? And you don't really have a lot of like friends that you can phone up and say like, hey, I've just signed this amazing big deal. But you have these groups of other entrepreneurs that you can phone, and they will like totally be there and say like, I told you can do it, and be very encouraging. So my answer to that would be just make sure that you're part of a network that you can reach out at any point, at any time, and yeah, hold on to that, because that's what's going to get you through the high and lows.
Then, of course, you've got the highs, the things that make you get up in the morning, make you want to go to work. What are those highs when it comes to you and your business?
To be honest with you, like if you sign a big deal with lots of revenue, that does give you a high, but the high kind of like doesn't last for a long time, and it's good because it validates all the work that you've put in. But I think the thing that really gives me that chutzpah to carry on and just be relentless is knowing that I'm making a difference in small and medium-sized businesses' lives, right? So this whole contract with MTN for me was really special because it did really help like the guys who didn't know much, who were like didn't have access at all, and just seeing them have access, seeing them their sales increase by 200%. That for me is just what makes all of it absolutely worthwhile, is knowing that you've actively helped someone grow their business. It's phenomenal. Like, who can say that? It's phenomenal.
Now, I know you'll probably never have time for this because you're busy building this amazing business, but imagine you were delivering a lecture, and that lecture had to be the sum of the lessons that you've learnt over time. What would that lecture actually sound like?
I think one of the biggest things that I've learned in the last 6 months, to be honest, is don't listen to your head. It is something that can really kind of, it's something that can really kind of bring out routine behaviors that might not get you to the next level. So one thing. And part 2 to that is think bigger. I think a lot of the times entrepreneurs are like, oh, if only I can make targets and get $1 million to $1 million rand, or whatever the case might be. We always kind of like think bigger with numbers, but I think we need to start thinking bigger of what are the things that we can achieve, right? So it's not just about the numbers. Like, think bigger about like, is Adbot just an AdTech? Is it not just like, can it be a world of like data-driven SME insights that can help these guys deliver more to their customers and get them more exposure and get them more sales? Like, I think thinking bigger is one of the biggest challenges that an entrepreneur has. And your own thinking as you enter the journey like limits you from thinking bigger, and you only learn that 3-4 years down the line, I think. But if you can start thinking bigger in the beginning, it will take you far.
Now, in closing, Michelle, I always ask the first question. Well, I say always, most of the time, and that question is, what business are you in? It is my belief that it's important to ask that because it allows you to focus on purpose as opposed to your tech stacks and the other technical things you have to do, the processes that you have to deliver in order to deliver value. What is your take on that? How important is it to keep your eye on the purpose?
Yeah, of course. I think because of the highs and the lows, like one minute you think you're closing, the next minute you've got this massive deal, if you don't have that thing that's getting you out of bed in the morning, that's like absolute reason why you get up, and it's not money, it's something deep. Where it comes from, I still have to figure that out. Maybe it's past experience, maybe it's a previous life, who knows these days. But if you have a sense of, I am making the world better, or I'm achieving something bigger than myself, then business is just a means of doing that, right? And it could be AdTech now, it could be, but it could also be, if your aim is to help SMEs grow and grow their businesses, it might not be AdTech, it might be more, you know, and what that allows you to do is also think bigger about your business, right? So we all know that data and using data within AI agents and AI forms is going to be the future. So knowing that that's where we're going, thinking about how to get the product to use that level of detail and create new things and new bits. So yeah.
Michelle, thank you very much for sharing a bit of your life, a bit of your journey with us. And that's really what it's about. You might think something doesn't impact, but just have a look at how advertising can free up time for other businesses who actually impact lives on the ground, on the continent. So if you believe you've got a great story that I should share, or if you'd like to touch base with me, it's very simple. At the end of this, you'll see my email address. Reach out to me, and I'll see you next week on Innovate Africa.